Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 9. We will explain about materials bankruptcy. This is our group member, Hafiz Hanif, Fajar Kurnia, and with myself, Hafiz Al-Shirazi, and Salsabila SV Azahra. For definition of bankruptcy and the next, it will be explained by Fajar Kurnia. Fajar Kurnia, times is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Uh, First material is about the definition of bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a legal process through which individual or entities, such as business, that are unable to repay their outstanding, that can seek relief from some or all of their financial obligation. It is a typical initiated by the debtor or voluntary bankruptcy or creditor or involuntary bankruptcy and involves the assessment, liquidation, or reorganization of assets under court supervision. Next. Legal basis of bankruptcy. In Indonesia, bankruptcy is regulated under what number 37 2004 on bankruptcy and suspension of debt payment obligation, or PKPU. Number 2 is Supreme Court regulation, or PERMA, relate to bankruptcy proceeding. Key provision of Indonesian bankruptcy law. One is requirement of bankruptcy. The debtor must have at least two creditors, and there must be overdue and unpaid debt. But two legal consequence of bankruptcy. First, the debtor assets are controlled by the receivers for liquidation and distribution to creditors. And second, the debtors loses the right to manage their assets or unless under PKPU. Okay, back to moderator.
Okay, thank you very much for Fajar. The next material will be explained by Hafizul Hanif.
Okay, thank you, moderator. The next material is bankruptcy filing procedure. One, filing the petition. We confirm debtor, voluntary bankruptcy, creditors, involuntary bankruptcy if debt is unpaid. Required documents, proof of debt, agreements, invoice, court rulings, list of creditors, and debt amount, financial statement for companies. The second, court examination and hearing at commercial court. Timeline, proceeding within 20 days of filing process. Debtors and creditors present their case. If approved, debtor is declared bankrupt. Court appoints a receiver curator to manage assets. The third, asset management by receiver. Receiver duties, place and inventory debtor assets. Call creditors meeting to verify claims. Sell assets full bankruptcy or prepare restructuring plan. For debt settlement, two possible outcomes. Point A, liquidation for bankruptcy, asset sold, process, distribution to creditors. Remaining unsecured debt discharged except tax criminal debts. Restructuring, successful PKPU, debtor continues business under new payment scheme. If PKPU fails, process to full bankruptcy.
Okay, thank you for explanation by Hafizul Hanif. For the next material will be explained by myself, Hafiz Al-Shirazi. For first, it's about legal effects of bankruptcy declaration in Indonesia. Bankruptcy in Indonesia are regulated on Law number 37 of 2004 concerning bankruptcy and suspension of debt payment obligations. Bankruptcy and PKPU laws. Based on articles 1, number 1 of bankruptcy and PKPU law, it states that bankruptcy is a general seizure of all assets of bankrupt debtor whose management and settlement are carried out by a curator under the supervision of a supervisory judge. The formulation of this article can be concluded that bankruptcy is a general seizure by lack of assets bankrupt debtor. Legal effect of bankruptcy declaration in Indonesia. After the court declares the debtor bankrupt, the debtor loses its capacity to manage and dispose of bankruptcy estates, and all court enforcement procedure relating to security or other matters are postponed and any attachment order is lifted. The power to undertake any legal action in respect of the bankruptcy estate passes to the curator. The bankruptcy estate consists of all of the bankrupt's debtor assets at the time of the declaration of bankruptcy, including assets obtained during the bankruptcy, but excluding assets stipulated in Article 22 of bankruptcy law. What about the legal effects of bankruptcy declaration in USA? When you file for bankruptcy, you are seeking to eliminate or reduce the debt you owe to your creditors, depending on whether you file for Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 bankruptcy. You might come out of the process with no debt or significantly reduced debt. About the Chapter 7, is bankruptcy essentially liquidates your assets to pay your creditors. Some assets are exempt, so you get to keep them, while Chapter 13 bankruptcy allows you to retain assets, but you must agree to pay or repay your debt over a period of 3 to 5 years. The trustee collects your payments and distributes them to your creditors. Legal effects of bankruptcy declaration in United States of America. If you got a Chapter 7 category and you sell some non-exempt assets, you will no longer be under any obligation to repay them. But however, certain debts like student loans, child support, and taxes cannot be discharged. While Chapter 13 bankruptcy allows you to retain your assets, but you must agree to a plan to repay your debts over periods of 3 to 5 years. The trustee collects your payments and distributes them to your creditors. And the other effect is it will be affect your credit score and will be affect your performance when you rent some money on a bank. Next, the different legal effects of bankruptcy in Indonesia and USA. Okay, as you can see, Indonesia, all asset of debtor at the time bankruptcy declarations. Wealth acquired during the bankruptcy period, the debtor's legal obligation after bankruptcy cannot be paid from the bankruptcy estate unless they benefit the estates. Lawsuits related to bankruptcy assets can only be filed by or against the creditor. Legal action of the debtor that harm creditor before bankruptcy can be invalidated if there is evidence of harmful intent or knowledge. Grants from debtor can also be canceled if they are detrimental to creditors. Creditors with property rights, mortgage, pledge can still execute the collateral as if there was no bankruptcy. And then about the United States, there is the two chapters, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 category, you sell some non-exempt states that you will no longer be under any obligation if you repay them. But however, certain debts like student loans, child support, and taxes cannot be discharged. This is really good for people who have a lower income. And while Chapter 13 bankruptcy allows you to retain your assets, but you must agree to plan to repay your debts over a period of 3 to 5 years. The trustee collects your payments and distribute them to your creditors. This is really good for people or person who wanna make them keep their assets. You have an option when you face a bankruptcy, but consider because it will affect your credit score and your finance performance in front of bank. Curator of the suspension of debt payments. Indonesia PKPU. In Indonesia legal system, the terms curator of suspension of debt payment obligation is not appropriate. In the suspension of debt payments obligation or PKPU process, the person appointed by the court is the administrator, not the curator. The key roles of curators, asset management, take control of and manage the debtor assets. Debt settlement, liquidates asset to pay creditors. Legal representations, represents the debtor in legal matters related to the bankruptcy. It's important to note that during the PKPU process, which is temporary suspension of debt payment obligation, aimed at reaching a settlement between the debtor and creditors. The court appoints an administrator, pengurus, rather than a curator. The administrator supervises the debtor business operation during these periods. While in the U.S. trustee is an individual appointed to oversee the administration of bankruptcy case. The role and responsibilities of trustee vary depending on the type of bankruptcy filed. Okay, chapter 7, liquidation. The trustee collects and sells the debtor's non-exempt asset to pay creditors. Chapters 11, reorganizations. Typically, the debtor remains in control of the business as a debtor in possessions, but a trustee can be appointed in case of fraud or mismanagement. And chapter 13, repayment plan. The trustee oversees the debtor's repayment plan, collecting payments and distributing them to the creditors. So the trustee operates under the supervision of the United States trustee programs, a component of the Department of Justice responsible for overseeing the administration of bankruptcy case. Here's the difference between the PKPU and U.S. trustee. There is three big points, like from aspect and two countries, Indonesia and United States. Like legal frameworks, appointment, role in bankruptcy, role in PKPU. For United States, there is no PKPU, unfortunately. And supervision, Indonesia is under supervising judge, while United States is under U.S. trustee program. So that's from me, and the next material will be explained by Sasabila SP Azahra.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I want to explain about the commercial court. So first, commercial court is a specialized court under the general court that handles commercial matters such as bankruptcy and suspension of debt payment. And for the commercial court legal basis is law number 37 of 2004 on bankruptcy and suspension of debt payment. And the second is Prudential Decree number 197 of 1999 on establishment of commercial court. And next, for the authorities of commercial court is handle bankruptcy and debt moratorium or PKPU cases, and then settle intellectual property disputes, e.g. trademarks, copyright, and patents, and then rules on cancellation of composition plans in bankruptcy, and then decides on rehabilitation requests, and then handles lawsuit against creditors or administrator. And for the characteristic is commercial court has fast-track procedures and no appeal, only cassation, and then judge include career and ad hoc judge. Next is cassation. What is cassation? Cassation is a legal remedy filed to the Supreme Court due to an alleged misapplication of law in the commercial court decision. And eligible parties of cassation is debtor, creditor, and curator. And then filing deadline of cassation is within 8 days after the ruling is issued or notified. And the last is judicial review. Judicial review is legal remedy against a final and binding court decision based on new evidence or fonum or judge error. And judicial review filed to Supreme Court. And for the legal basis is law number 14 of 1985 on the Supreme Court, and law number 5 of 2004 amendment. And that's for me.
Okay, thank you very much explanation by Echa. So I think that's it, a presentation material from group 9. And for any mistake that we made, we really apologize. Again, thank you very much for the attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.